Like, comment, share, and subscribe. Pause the video right now to check out my social media, my radio show, and thatdrummerguy.com. And most of all, enjoy the following presentation. One, two. Hello?
Hey Josh, how you going?
I'm doing good. How are you doing?
Yeah, really good, man.
Oh, awesome. Well, thank you for hitting me up and taking the time to do this interview.
No problem. Thanks for thanks for doing it at such short notice. I just figured I'm just sitting here doing nothing, just wasting time on Facebook. So, yeah, I thought it'd be a good time.
Yeah, and oddly enough, I was doing the exact same thing. So, it's just like so there's absolutely perfect timing to be able to talk about everything that's going on in the world of Toehider.
Yeah, man. Yeah, for sure.
Of course, the brand new album Good has been out for just a little bit now. What has been the reception to the album so far?
It's been really, really good. I really I'm using this word good. I'm going to regret calling the album that, I think, in a few months. But no, it's been really great. Let's go with great. Yeah, people from all over the world are sending me nice messages, and yeah, it's doing really well. It sort of feels like it's been a step up from the last couple of releases that I've done. So that's always a really good feeling. It's the less backwards I'm feeling. That's definitely a positive thing.
Yeah, that's definitely the way it should be. I mean, with every album, you should feel like you're progressing in some way, whether you just like the content more or it's the songwriting abilities. I mean, as long as you're always improving and enjoying what you're doing, that's very important.
Yeah, definitely. I was talking to someone earlier today about this, of musicians and artists who get a lot of success really early on. Maybe they just explode all of a sudden, and I think while that's probably really, really nice, I think it's probably frustrating in the long run to try to better yourself, or to be constantly trying to chase that level of I don't know, success, I suppose. So it's while it's sort of definitely frustrating in my own experience, having this very slow building climb in my career, it's definitely got its positive sides to it.
Yeah,
this slow thing.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more with that. I mean, even though it does take a lot longer for that to happen, I mean, you are able to have more artistic integrity when you do that, because when you have such a body of work and you are able to build it up slowly but surely, I mean, it doesn't feel like you have to be pigeonholed in one style of music.
Yeah, no, that's a very good point. Yeah, that's very true.
So, with that said, I mean, with you feeling that Good is some of the best material that you've done to date, how do you go about the songwriting when it comes to writing a new album?
Well, I think the less I think about it, the happier I am. It's sometimes it's a very automatic process. Just sitting down and just allowing whatever happens to happen. Other times, I guess it's a collection of very small ideas over a longer period of time. But I think through experience, it seems to be the most effective if I have an idea to act on it almost instantly, because if I don't, then it becomes very stale, and I'm sort of more inclined to talk myself out of following through and finishing it. So yeah, for me, it has to happen quite quickly in order for me to get it done, which is frustrating, but it's just the way it is, I guess.
So with that in mind, I mean, is there much like refining or retooling that goes into the song, or is it just like the ideas that immediately come that you put into record?
Well, I don't demo material. Sometimes I might record little riffs and melody ideas onto my phone, but I don't try ideas out. Usually, what ends up on the albums is the first. I don't know. I was going to say first draft, but it's not a draft because it's the finished thing. It's the first variation is the final thing for me. Once again, it's very easy to, particularly the sort of the style of music that I like to, well, the styles of music that I like to write. It's probably easy to overwork things, but I think it's better to just act very fast and get it done as quickly as possible and just work on instincts. It seems to be the best way to do things, at least in my experience.
Yeah, and of course, obviously, it changes from artist to artist on how that songwriting goes, but, it's really cool to see that is the case with you. I mean, the faster that you are able to act on an idea, the better that the songs do come out. I mean, with such the variation and variety that goes into every Toehider album that I've listened to, let alone every song that goes into it, I mean, just the fact that you are able to have all these different ideas and different styles and inspirations, it's great to see that you are able to track it so fast in your mind and be able to have such a great cohesive album that goes along with it.
Oh, cool. Well, thanks. That's really good feedback, actually, because I think over the years, one of the most common criticisms is the somewhat lack of coherence, but within an album. It's, it might jump from something that's quite heavy to something that's a little bit more humorous to something that's a bit more even sort of folk inspired or whatever. But I just feel like, I really enjoy experimenting and trying out different sounds, and so I feel like I'm getting better at while still kind of maintaining that diversity and that excitement in trying out new sounds. Maybe I don't know, it's not for me to say, I guess, but maybe I'm sort of developing my own voice or style rather than just copying Queen all the time or whatever.
Well, it kind of goes back to what I was saying before with being able to have more of this slow, steady climb with it. I mean, with the fact that you were able to go from these very folk-inspired songs to near death and thrash metal elements, just like... and of course, all the prog that goes into your style as well. I mean, the fact that you were able to come up with all these ideas on record already, so when you finally do break out the way that you deserve to and really hit those spotlights, you don't feel like you just have to play that style of music from now on, whatever catches on first. I mean, you have such a great array of artistic expression going on right now, and no matter where you go from here, you're always able to keep having that.
Cool. No, thanks, Josh. That's a really encouraging thing to bring up. Because I suppose you're right. I never really thought about that because of the amount of stuff that I've done, which sort of jumps around stylistically. I suppose in a way, the fans that are drawn to what I'm doing probably savor that and kind of almost not expect, but kind of, are entertained. They obviously have a very open, they have a very broad sense, a very broad musical taste. Let's just put it that way. So, yeah, no, I think you're right. It's good that I can, like, if I release a country album next year, then people will probably go, okay, well, that's what he's doing now this year. I don't know.
Yeah, and it's the fact that it also sounds very inspired as well. I mean, it doesn't sound like you're just putting out a pop punk song to put out a pop punk song, or a thrash metal song to put out a thrash metal song. I mean, it definitely sounds like the songs that you want to write for the time and what sounds very true to you. And that's what I really admire about you so much. I mean, besides the fact that you are able to come up with almost everything that goes into a Toehider album, and of course recording that and getting a great backing band to go along with it live, but the fact that you are able to do this and still stay so inspired and so authentic is something I can really appreciate.
Yeah, cool. I think I've always wanted my work to be a reflection, almost a direct reflection of what I'm like as a person, which is, something of a roller coaster, even within, from day to day. And even if I tried, I don't think I could just maintain one mood or one sound or one emotion within a release. Always try to run the gamut of emotional styles, I guess, for lack of a better way of putting it.
Yeah, and again, that's what I really truly appreciate about it. I mean, if you ever do decide to like just go down like one style of music or something like that, I mean, as long as it still has that authenticity to it, it's something I'm always going to be able to appreciate. But if you continue on like this, where you do just write the songs that you feel like deserve to be on this recording, whether it's an EP or a full length or whatever the case is, the fact that the authenticity is there is what's really most important to me. I can hear it in there, and I just really love what you do.
Oh, cool. Thanks heaps, Josh. No, that's the authenticity. Yeah, that's, I guess, yeah, the authenticity thing is important, because I would never do anything for the sake of I don't know, popularity, or thinking that that's what people want to hear, or anything like that. I just listen to a lot of music, so that my own music is obviously going to be a reflection of that.
And in speaking of that, to somewhat flip the coin here, I mean, the way that I discovered you was actually from Arjen Lucassen with the brand new Ayreon album, and being able to check out what you did on that album. Like, you are easily my favorite part of the brand new album, The Source. I mean, with the originality that you're bringing into that, how did that whole collaboration come to be?
Well, thanks. I first was in contact with Arjen. I think he was reading a review in a Dutch magazine of a Toehider album, and he just checked it out and then sent me a message via email or Facebook or something, and he said that he really enjoyed the stuff, and then he sort of said, would you be interested in singing on my next release? And I think at that time he just released his solo album, Lost in the New Real, and so my initial response was, cool, you know, I'm going to sing on another, because again at that point I had read interviews or had heard that he wasn't going to be continuing with the Ayreon saga. So I was pretty excited, you know, to because obviously I'm a huge admirer of his work and an Ayreon fan and so on. And then his next, so I said, yeah, of course, you know. But and then his next message said, I think it's going to be another Ayreon album. And then I was like, oh, okay, what the hell is going on here? And I sort of screen capped the message and sent it to a few friends, and I said, am I reading this right? Is he asking me to sing on an Ayreon album, you know? And yeah, but then sure enough, within a year, I was flown over to the Netherlands, and we recorded the Theory of Everything album over a few days, and yeah, and then I think let's see here, so Theory of Everything, and then the Theater Equation, and then The Source. So I think I've been on every Ayreon release since, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, I believe so. I mean, I've gotten the chance to talk to Arjen a few months back to be able to promote The Source, and he was saying that you're one of his favorite musicians going to date right now for everything that you are able to accomplish when it comes to recording. And I can see how it goes both ways, because I see both the originality, the variety that goes into both of your styles of music, and the fact that you are able to work cohesively like this and just being able to add new dimension into each other's sound. I mean, it's so really cool to see. Yeah,
well, I'm definitely inspired by his work, and also his work ethic as well. It just keeps very busy, and is very devoted to what he does. And obviously musically, it's just, you know, I don't like to use the word genius very often, but I think that does apply to him. And yeah, and it's so I guess humbling and really nice to see that he's saying similar things about me. So it works really well. And he gave me the opportunity to write my own parts for The Source. There was a few parts that he wrote, but there was a few bits and pieces there where he left it completely open for me to come up with my own thing. So yeah, I think it works really well. And we did the Ayreon Universe shows a couple of months ago, and it's the same thing. He he was taking notes through the whole rehearsal process, and he had bits and pieces of advice and things that people wanted to change, and he called me in, and he sort of said, I know that you'll be wanting to hear something from me, so this is, he just had one or two very small things, but I kind of felt like it was more so because he sort of knew that I enjoyed his encouragement and his feedback. So it's just a dream of a human being to work with. It's such a nice, friendly guy, and yeah, I have a tremendous amount of respect for him, and I owe him a lot, actually, because like yourself, there's so many people who have kind of discovered me through him. It's kind of like a plucked from obscurity prog rock fairy tale kind of environment, I guess. It's been really great.
Yeah, and it's so great to see that too. I mean, because of all the talent that you are able to do. I mean, no matter what instrument you're doing, no matter what vocal scale you're going for, no matter what the songwriting is, I mean, there is such a great, unique talent to what you do that it's so great to be able to see that flushed out through Ayreon, and the fact that you are able to get so much more of a fan base, myself included, and everyone else that's discovered you ever since the first release from The Source or The Theory of Everything. I mean, the fact that everything has been building up, and with him to thank for that, I mean, it's just really great to see that you are able to get the kind of fan base that you are right now because of that.
Yeah, definitely.
So with that, I mean, when you are able to work with someone of his caliber, how much does that affect you when it comes into your own writing?
Well, I think I'm a bit of a sponge when it comes to listening to music and stuff like that. So it's probably it's inevitable, that what he does is reflected in the stuff that I write. And also, I think our tastes in music are very similar as well. So he's a very open-minded guy when it comes to music, also. So yeah, I think there's been also a few times where, well, there's been at least one time where we've both come up with vocal melodies that are almost identical without realizing. So yeah, I think we seem to be on the same page in terms of all of that kind of stuff.
Oh, so cool. So getting back into the good writing sessions, I mean, obviously with the more of the spur of the moment kind of feel that goes into your songwriting, how do you approach things when it comes into the lyrical content?
Well, sometimes I get song title ideas first, and then everything tends to spring from that. Sometimes I'll have a conversation with someone, and they might say something that that might make a good lyric or things like that. I'm very much a fan of telling little stories in songs, and I've never been very good at wrapping up my emotional thoughts or opinions on things in metaphors. I'm very kind of a more direct writer, I guess. It just seems to be easier for me to do it that way, and try to keep things humorous, but also have a lot of substance to it. I don't know. It's very. I'll apologize, but I tend not to think too much about how I do it, because I feel like when I do, it tricks my brain into not wanting to do it and overanalyzing things, and I'm a bit of a victim of my own mind sometimes. And yeah, it's a bit of a dangerous thing to overanalyze things. So maybe we can talk about something else. Sorry.
Oh yeah, not a problem. I mean, where I was going with that is I just like with the songwriting, I was just wanted to say with like the lyrical content, I really appreciate the approach that you go with it. I mean, whether it's like a really heartfelt emotional song that you're going for, a more humorous song, or whatever the case is, I mean, it feels like whatever you do with the lyrical content, it's just the perfect song gets matched up with it when it comes into the songwriting. I mean, with both the lyrical content and the musicianship that goes into it. I mean, even if it is more spur of the moment, it just feels like it was naturally meant to be put together.
Right. I guess that is a seamless thing that tends to happen. Sometimes it's a little bit hard to match the right mood musically with what I'm trying to say lyrically, but most of the time that tends to happen hand in hand.
Oh, very much so. So, with that, with just the great reception that's going on for Good, and of course the ever-growing fan base that is absolutely deserving for what's going on with Toehider, what's next?
Well, we want to go out and play a bunch of shows here in Australia. We did some shows in Europe a month or two ago, and I think just continue with writing and all of that kind of thing. I think next year I've lent my voice to a few other projects, so hopefully they get released next year. And I just think sort of full steam ahead. Just keep doing what I'm doing and try to stay active. And there'll be more videos and it's just continuing doing what I'm doing. I think is probably the best plan. I tend not to plan too much ahead because I'm a psycho. I just tend to, like, if I think too much about it, then it makes me not want to do it. So I try to keep a blank mind as often as I can, and then just act when the time and inspiration allows.
Yeah, and that's a really refreshing way to go about it. I mean, there's so many people who can plan for years upon years on end, and then if something comes out of nowhere that messes up the schedule, it can completely destroy them. But when you are able to go in this kind of direction, when you just go just a few steps ahead of you, just to figure out when it comes to the touring, or if it comes to recording next album or guest spots or whatever that is. I mean, when you are able to go between that and not worry so much about it, I mean, it gives you so much more freedom.
Yeah, absolutely, and I agree with you. I've got friends who know what they're doing 18 months in advance and where they'll be and what their plans are, and you're absolutely right. If something else comes up or something interferes with those plans, they really struggle with those interferences. So I guess there's pros and cons to both methods, but it seems to be working so far, and if I just stay clear-headed and just continue doing what I'm doing, I think that's going to be the best thing for myself and for the people that are who are into what I'm doing.
So, with that said, I mean, obviously, it's great to see that there are live shows that are out there to be able to help promote what you're doing, and of course, promoting the new album, Good. Living here in North America and just having a chance to be able to check out a few random YouTube videos, what should I expect from a Toehider show if I'm given the chance to be able to see you live?
I think it's just focusing on the higher energy stuff. Just the big rock show kind of vibe, for lack of a. It sounds pretty douchey the way. Hang on, let me rethink that. It's just a lot of. I tend to gravitate to more of the up tempo rockin' kind of stuff because that seems to get the crowd involved a lot more, and just a big emphasis on having a good time. I think that seems to be the best way to do it. I've tried doing shows where, focusing on some of the more emotional or serious or, dare I say, depressing songs, and it's that's a really hard thing for to put myself through. So if I just sort of keep things a little bit more up tempo and a bit more fun, then everybody has a bit more of a good time.
Yeah, and that makes me so happy to hear that too. I mean, obviously there are bands and musicians that are able to do more of the really dark, depressing, emotional music, and it can be very therapeutic for them. But also the exact opposite is the case too, where it's the more you focus on the positive energy, the more up-tempo stuff in the songs, I mean, the more fun that the crowd's going to have, the more fun that you're going to have as well.
Definitely. Yeah, it's I think it's maybe more of a 70s thing of just big and loud rock and roll. It seems to be the best thing for myself, and judging by crowd responses, that seems to be what people more responsive to.
And with that, I mean, of course, there's like a huge collection of material that you've done so far. I mean, how hard is it to pick out what songs, as far as like the up-tempo numbers, is it to be able to put into a live set?
That's a really good question. I think songs that it's always a bit of a challenge because sometimes I go a bit crazy with overdubs and arrangements that just can't be pulled off by three human beings on a stage. So sometimes we adapt the songs to work. I've tried a lot of songs over the years to try to get them to work on stage, and they just don't work. And then other ones are very, sometimes the songs are far better on stage than they are on the record. So it's probably a case of trial and error at rehearsals and just seeing what works, and what's the strongest in terms of communicating what the song's about. Yeah, so there's no real process that I can really think of other than just trying out the songs and seeing what feels the best.
And speaking of that, is there like a particular song or two that surprised you with how well it sounds even better live than it was in the recording?
Yeah, I feel like the song "Whatever Makes You Feel Superior," which is the second song off the "What Kind of Creature" album from a few years ago, it feels like I had to initially we were putting it earlier in the set, but I had to move it back to the very last song because it felt like there was nowhere that we could go from the intensity that that song brings when we do it live. It's just really it's really full on. It's really fun. It's really challenging to play, and it's really hard to sing live. So but when it lands, it's a huge feeling. And I've honestly never really been too happy with how that song came out. I mean, it's okay, but there's just a few things in terms of the mix and the drum sound and whatnot. So it's always heaps of fun to play that live, and I think the live versions, we should probably professionally record a show at some point so we can really capture that live feel for that song.
Yeah, and I wanted to ask about that too. I'm glad you brought that up. I mean, if you guys were able to put out a live album or a live Blu-ray or whatever the case was, I mean, I would love to be able to see that kind of live feel and that live experience.
Yeah, it's definitely on the cards. It's I think to do something really well and for something to faithfully capture what it feels like to do the show, I think it's going to take a lot of money in terms of getting a pro thing shot and recorded. So, but that's on my to-do list. I think it would be good to do that as well.
Yeah, and I know as a fan, I would definitely love to be able to see that. But in the meantime, for all of that, I mean, it's so awesome to see everything that you got going on. I mean, whether it's the Toehider band, whether you're working with Arjen for the new Ayreon or whatever projects that he has coming up in store next with you in mind, and the guest spots that you were talking about that would be coming up in the future. I mean, it's great to see that you are able to keep being so busy and keeping that fresh, inspired feel going. I mean, I know how hard it is to be a musician and just even have one project where you can really feel inspired and happy about the way everything's going, and the fact that you are able to do so much and just being able to keep this capacity going. I mean, it's very inspiring for me to see everything you're able to do and just seeing such great quality work come from you.
Yeah, cool. I think that's trial and error once again of figuring out what works the best and what's the most productive. I've been in bands where it's been a bunch of musicians in a room trying to write songs together as a unit, and I always really struggled with that because I don't know, I just envision songs almost completely, and I feel like I have to honor that process that happens, and so that actually took me a while to figure out that I think I work a lot better and a lot more productively by myself as a writer. So yeah, but then, collaborating with Ayreon works really well because it was basically a case of, here's a piece of music and here's a section of that piece of music that I want you to put your own stamp on, and that works for me as well. I didn't realize that was going to work as well as it has. So I'm really glad to have had that opportunity as well, and that's something that I want to do more of in the future also. So hopefully that'll happen at some point in the future as well. So yeah, I think it's just trying out a bunch of different processes and seeing what works best for the individual.
Oh, very much so. Well, Mike, thank you so very much for taking all this time to be able to talk to me about everything that you got going on. Talking about the brand new album, Good, which is available now. I highly recommend it to anyone listening to this and being able to experience what you're capable of. And, of course, checking out the brand new album from Ayreon, The Source, where that was really where I discovered what you're doing. I mean, with The Theory of Everything, I really loved what you're doing with that as well, but it was really The Source where it's like I realized, wow, I need to check out what this guy is all about, and I've been very happy with that ever since. I mean, with you being my favorite discovery of the year, just going back through your back catalog and being able to see everything that you're up to now with Good, I mean, just like such a great array of musicianship and songwriting that's going on there. It was an absolute honor to be able to talk to you about everything you got going on.
Well, thanks so much for you to take the time to have a chat about what I'm doing, and it's really nice and encouraging to hear that you're digging it so much. So yeah, thanks for having me.
Oh, absolutely. And it's a milestone for me for this interview as well, as this is my 400th interview at doing what I do as that drummer guy. So be able to show off someone that I admire so much like yourself for my 400th interview, I mean, that's a really cool feeling for me.
400 interviews, that's amazing. So let's celebrate by me giving you a little interview. So so Josh, over the years, who do you think has been the highlight of who you've been, apart from me, of course, who do you think has been the highlight of of all of the 400 interviews that you've given so far?
Being put in the spot on here, I like that. I mean, obviously, besides this interview, talking to Arjen about Ayreon, the couple times that I've been able to talk to him, that was a great experience. Mike Portnoy from Dream Theater was another huge highlight for me. Devin Townsend was another huge one for me as well. Just really, the bands and musicians that mean the most to me are the ones that I always seem more connected to. I mean, it doesn't matter how big or small the project or the artist is in the real scheme of things. I mean, as long as there's like a real connection that I really feel with the music, that always means more to me when I'm able to do something to be able to help promote those bands, even if it's just in a small way.
Yeah, cool. Have you got any who's on your wish list for the next 100? Don't tell me 100. Maybe let's go with the 5 top interviewees that you have in mind, whether or not you can get them or not.
Oh, that's a great question, because I mean, there's especially this year alone. I mean, there's been so many that I've talked to that I never dreamed I'd be able to pull off. So I'd probably say like some of the bigger ones, like anyone from like Judas Priest or Iron Maiden or Metallica. Oh, wow. This is actually one I hadn't really thought about. So, yeah. Definitely say those 3. I mean, those were bucket list bands for me when I was growing up discovering metal. So,
Yeah, cool.
Yeah. Yeah, I'll have to think more about those last 2, but that was a great question.
Yeah, top 3 is still good.
Yeah.
Yeah, great. Well, I hope, I hope you get those guys and keep doing what you're doing. I think it's great. I've checked out some of your interviews in the past, so yeah, it's been fantastic.
Oh, awesome! That's awesome to hear that. I mean, I'm so used to being more of an unknown person that when I do talk to someone and they're actually familiar with what I'm doing ahead of time, I mean that's awesome to see.
Yeah, definitely. No, it's always good to check out what's going on. I think we've been friends on Facebook for a while now. Yeah. So yeah, it's been good. Yeah, and I remember the first time we were talking, you were talking about your Alesis kit, which I also have the same one. Oh, the Alesis Crimson. Yeah, great. Yeah. I'm looking at it right now, as a matter of fact. Yeah, it's a great kit. Yeah, it's actually right next to me right now too. It's
right next to my recording setup. That way I just have it like hooked up right to my computer and record any ideas that I have as well. So yeah, I mean, it's a great
Cool.
kit.
Yeah, I think they've released the Strike Pro or something now. I haven't managed to check it out, but I think it's a step up again from this guy. But we'll see what happens.
Definitely.